These are some questions that I'm going to answer for the Financial Times that they may use in an article that they're going to do about the Khan Academy. So the first question, to what do you attribute your ability to effectively digest, synthesize, and teach such a wide variety of topics? I guess the simple answer is that I really enjoy doing that, and I think by a set of circumstances, either by the way maybe my brain works, or maybe just circumstances, or maybe ways that I've been taught, and I don't even remember where that might have come from. I learned a long time ago that there's kind of two ways to get by in our system. And I would say in our system, or maybe more broadly in society, you can go and look at knowledge as something where you're memorizing things or you're pattern matching things, or you can look at it as something to conceptually understand and digest and synthesize. And I think I was fortunate enough at an early age to kind of be much better at the digestion and the synthesis than at the memorization or the pattern matching. I actually think I have quite a bad memory. And so that's how I think I was able to do reasonably well academically, and then later on it transferred over into actually contributing in my work life. And I think there's a natural high, and I don't think I'm unique there. I don't think it's any unique quirk to my personality. I think when people really do learn things, it's one of those natural highs. It's one of those things that differentiate human beings from most other animals, is that we really like learning, we really like understanding, and we really are naturally curious. And so actually it's actually maybe a little sad that more people aren't as excited about trying to digest and synthesize a wide variety of topics. And actually, just to focus on the second part, a wide variety of topics, what's interesting about that for me, and I learned a lot of this to some degree from my former job working for an investment fund and analyzing a bunch of different companies and a bunch of different industries, is the more topics you look at, the more that you see that there are common underlying themes, and the more connections you're able to make, and the more you're able to kind of have a philosophy of how the world works. And so I actually think it builds your understanding of every field, the more fields that you look at, and you're able to see connections. And if you just focus on one field, it'll actually narrow your view even of that one field. So the next question, where does this polymathic mastery of such varied subjects come from? There are plenty of intelligent people who could study up on these subjects and not be able to communicate them so effectively. A similar answer to the last, to some degree the same answer as the last. I enjoy looking at things, I enjoy learning things, and I enjoy thinking. I like sitting on a park bench and just thinking about things, and you need something to think about, and so that's why I like studying different topics, and I like seeing where there might be parallels, or where there might be aha moments, or where there might be magical things about that subject that maybe people didn't realize or maybe emphasize properly. The second part about not being able to communicate, I agree, there are plenty of intelligent people who could study up on these subjects. The not being able to communicate them effectively, I think there are people out there, and hopefully I'm hoping more and more of them do decide to communicate them effectively, and I'm hoping that we can find them, and maybe they can even join the Khan Academy faculty. I think the important thing that a lot of people who do have subject matter expertise, I think they sometimes have the difficulty of getting into the mind of a learner. And I'll be frank, a lot of the way I view the world is I think I have fairly simple models in my mind I've gotten good at taking complex things and creating simple models in my own mind so that I can work with those models. And I think some people are actually good at keeping complicated models in their mind. And when you have a complicated model in your mind, it's obviously much harder to communicate them because it's complicated. But I think most of those models can be distilled down to more simple and more elegant ways of thinking about things. Next question. Were you always drawn to such a variety of subjects? How do you maintain your curiosity? Is there anything that strikes you as too dry to learn and teach? Once again, yes, I was always drawn. Well, actually, I'll take that back. Early in my life, there were two things that I really liked. I really liked art and drawing and painting when I was very early on. When I was actually in school, people viewed me as kind of like the art guy, the guy who would draw pictures and cartoons and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed mathematics. What I didn't enjoy in my early schooling is I wasn't a big fan of reading, and I wasn't a big fan of writing in my early school. And I viewed it as those things that I just wasn't good at. I actually used to, sometimes when I used to read, I would just sit and fixate on like one sentence and have to read it over and over and over again. And it would take me forever to read a page. And it was something that actually frustrated me a lot. And it wasn't until later that I kind of, I don't know, to some degree, de-stressed how I viewed some of those things. And I let myself to explore things without the stress of judging myself or having other people judge me, that I started realizing, wow, I actually do like reading, and I really actually do like writing, and it's a form of communication. And I love just thinking analytically about how do you make an argument. And I think the underlying lesson there is when you thought you didn't like something, and then you learn that not only do you not like it, but you actually like it, you're like, well, maybe I'm prejudging everything, So the second part of this question, is there anything that strikes you as too dry to learn and teach? No, I mean, there's nothing, there's things that right now I perceive as dry, but my gut feeling tells me that it's just the way that it's been taught or marketed to the world that people make it dry. I mean, one of my big discoveries, even something like accounting. You tell someone accounting and they think it's just this dry subject. But I remember when I went to business school, kind of this big aha moment was like, this is a really fascinating subject. It isn't just about bean counting. It isn't just about bookkeeping. It's about using symbols and numbers to reflect a certain reality of what this business or this process is actually doing. And maybe, when a lot of people hear that, they still might say, well, that's still not that. But trust me, it can be a very interesting. In fact, this whole financial crisis is driven by people's different philosophies or understanding of accounting. So I think my philosophy, and I haven't had a topic yet that where it's disproven this philosophy, is actually what's dry is how a topic is presented, not the topic itself. So really almost any topic can be very intellectually interesting if it's looked at the right way. What do you do for fun? What do you read? What movies, films, and arts do you enjoy during your free time? One can get the impression that Khan Academy is all you do. In terms of fun, and this answer has changed a lot over the last 3 years since having children. So my time is limited now, and you can't do all the stuff that I used to like to do. I mean, one of the things I used to like to do when it was just me and my wife, or even before I was married, I was a big, I liked the outdoors a lot and like to go hiking, and it's something that I hope to do with my children soon, but they're a little bit too young to go hiking or camping just yet. But that is one of the things that I really like to doing, just outdoors things. I'm also, I'm a hobbyist guitarist and painter, and I don't claim at all to be good at those things, but they are things that I like to do for fun. I like to, they're a form of creative expression. In terms of what do I read? I read a lot of science fiction, which may not surprise a lot of people. So a lot of science fiction. And, frankly, I also like to revisit a lot of the books that I was forced to read, so to speak, in high school and college. And now when I revisit them and I'm reading them for fun, I'm starting to really enjoy them. So I read a lot of science fiction, and I read a lot of the classics for fun. And I found that they take on a new light. One, when you read them for fun, and when you read them from, you're a little older now, and you have a little bit more perspective on life, although, hopefully have a lot more perspective to get. So, science fiction, they're fun. They're fun by themselves. They tend to be good stories, but I just like what they kind of expand your mind and really make you think. A lot of things that we take for granted in our society, science fiction books are really good at kind of exposing them as somewhat arbitrary, and that there are other ways to do things. And I think they are some of the best things you can read to expand your view of what is possible. And you say, what movies, films, and arts do you enjoy during your free time? Once again, I love science fiction. I love epic things generally. So whether it's Braveheart or Lord of the Rings or the Godfather movies, and I don't think I'm alone in liking those type of things. But we've been but my wife every now and then gets me to watch an episode of Felicity on Netflix, and I enjoy that too, which is a little bit embarrassing, but anyway. One could get the impression that Khan Academy is all you do. Well, it's a lot of what I do now, especially with children. I think, I try to, during the day, focus Khan Academy, in the evening, focus on wife and children. But within that context, I try to, at least have one good book to read while I'm traveling, or maybe right before I go to bed. And, now that my kids are getting a little older, I'm getting a little bit more time to go back to do a little bit of the outdoor stuff and a little bit of the creative projects. What do you want Khan Academy curriculum to encompass? Is it K through 12 basics on math and science, or is it broader than that? Will it ever be complete? The second answer is easy to answer, no, it will never be complete. I think there's an infinite number of topics to cover, and I think we can always improve on what's covered, and we can always tackle it from a different angle. So I don't think it will ever be complete. It isn't just K through 12 basics. In fact, even now it isn't just K through 12 basics. There's a lot of content about college level material, even graduate level material. There's stuff about economics and finance. And we've just brought on 2 art history professors who are doing, so they're the new first additions to the Khan Academy faculty, and they're doing art history really at a fairly advanced level. And we're starting to do some videos with professors at Stanford Medical School and other places where we're attacking even medical stuff. So there's no end, and we really want it to encompass everything that helps people form a view of the world and understand the world around them, and become productive and happy and people with rich lives. I guess so. It's pretty much everything. Next question. As Khan Academy continues to find a larger audience, do you have any concerns about a growing number of students learning from one source? Is there a risk of having a uniformity of primary materials for students? We think about this issue, and this is why we are expanding the faculty, and there's actually going to be someone who joins also on the math side, and she's going to teach she teaches things with a slightly different view, although I think we have similar sensibilities. And so our goal is to iterate, and we're actually starting to get more analytical about what makes a video good, what makes, and so if someone makes another good video on something, or there's another way to view things, we hope to include those in the library. We don't think we'll have a million different teachers, but we think on a topic you might have 2 or 3 different viewpoints on something, and we think that's good. And we're also starting to introduce across the board, and we've done this with the medicine videos and some of the economics videos, is we're starting to have conversations in our videos, and this is what the 2 art historians do, Beth Harris and Steven Zucker. They have art conversations, so it's them 2 talking about a piece of art, or me and a professor talking about some scientific phenomenon. So you're really getting a conversation and seeing that there's 2 sides to it. And frankly, I think it's better that, there's you can go to a university that has many professors, but when you take Intro to American History, you get only one source. You're getting that one professor, or there is only one textbook right now that dominates each field. So we actually think we can provide more voices than what is traditionally provided. And the powerful thing about the internet now is I don't think anyone can capitalize as one voice. And if anyone did, and especially if that was bad quality, they will lose. Because the internet gets rid of all intermediaries. There's no gatekeepers anymore. It's not like we're a publishing firm 50 years ago where only what's published is what people get at. Now people can get anything anywhere, and frankly, anyone can do what I did over YouTube, and people are, and I think that's a really healthy thing, that you can always get the other points of view. Next question. Why are you focusing on education? I guess the simple answer is, I guess this may be all together. Are you concerned about the state of public education? It's regardless of whether we are all professional educators, we've all spent a significant time in the education system. I'm no exception. And, I did just have a nagging feeling while I went through it that there's got to be a better way to do this. I saw how many students were pattern matching, how many were memorizing, how little retention people have, how much resources people have, and still not coming out of the other side, having done creative things, having kind of really stretched their thinking. And so it seems like, we're at an inflection point in history, and, this is the information revolution, and it's crazy that almost every other field is getting revolutionized, except for education. So I think it's just ripe for it. And just answering some of those early questions about my interest, it's what I love doing. I entered the investment world because I loved learning about different industries. I love talking to a egg producer 1 hour and talking to a railroad company the next hour and talking to a software company the next hour and talking to a natural gas pipeline owner the next hour, because you learn how the world works. And that's what education is: learning how the world works, learning ways of thinking, sometimes with the goal of becoming a productive, happy member of society, and with a rich life. And so, I can't imagine anything better to focus on, I guess, is a simple answer. Because it also, it's something that's interesting to me personally, but then obviously it can scale now, and then it just has ripple effects that can go on for not just for a few years, it could go on for generations. So it's kind of one of these epic ideas. And I already told you I like epic things. Are you concerned about the state of public education in the U.S.? I'm concerned about the state of public education everywhere. In fact, I'll say I'm concerned about the state of education everywhere. Frankly, people dump on the public schools a lot, but I don't think the private schools are actually much better. I mean, they're selecting for students who probably would do well if you gave them a textbook, and who come from college-educated families, who are wealthy, who can afford private tutors. They charge them, out here in the Bay Area, $30,000 a year. I don't know what they're doing with those resources, and you don't see substantially different results from private schools charging $30,000 a year to the public schools that are serving the same demographic. They seem to be about the same, or some of those public schools are even better. So I actually think the whole model is, and it's even true of people talk about our university system as the best thing. They do good research. That's why they're famous. That's why they are. But in terms of how they're teaching, there's nothing that I find particularly groundbreaking or something that's like you can't improve upon it. I think there's a lot that can be done. So I'm actually just concerned about the general state of. I actually wouldn't even say education. I'm concerned about the general state of people's learning in life, irrespective of what the education system is doing. What are your thoughts on the importance of primary education as a means to a productive and prosperous society? I mean, that's what it's all about. If you don't have that primary education, there's no way to have a productive and prosperous society. I mean, you need basic security, you need basic infrastructure, and you need an educated population. It's now true more than ever. And back in the old days, there were jobs where just raw labor was relevant, but that's with technology that becomes less and less relevant every day. And so in order for people to be productive and to contribute and to feel needed, they really have to step up the chain. And raw labor is needed less and less because of mechanical technology and because of information technology. Kind of process-oriented white-collar work is also going to go away. It's going to push everyone. The really needed jobs are the highly creative ones. And so it's not good enough just to teach people how to, some process or some formula or some pattern matching. We have to teach them to be creative. We have to teach them to innovate, to problem solve things that they've never seen before. And so, I think it's not just an ingredient. It's actually the foundation of having a productive and prosperous society. Last question. Is it your hope that Khan Academy can help reverse some of the losses we have suffered in the quality of public schooling? just going to the previous education, I don't think it's about public schooling or private schooling or primary or secondary education. I think it's about just, I hope it can help elevate the state of knowledge or learning generally. And I think I won't make any bold claim that we've solved the problem yet or we're anywhere close to it. But I think what's exciting about Khan Academy is that we have a lot of traction, and we're trying to be as thoughtful about improving on what we have. So you combine the traction with our ability to iterate, move quickly, and improve in hopefully a thoughtful way, and we can only get better. And I think we're really just in the top of the first inning, and there's a long way to go here. But I'm hoping that it can improve the state of how people learn generally.